I think we fulfilled that over the years.
So, Kevin, why do you think, after covering sports for so many years, that these particular memories live on as vividly as they do among Flyers fans, or any hockey fan? You don't have to be just a Flyers fan. I mean, you can appreciate good hockey if you're a hockey lover.
Sure. I mean, the fact that they won is big, but a team wins every year. In all four sports, a team wins. They're remembered because they won and because of the personalities on the team. And those teams come around, you know, once in a generation, really.
They're few and far between. Can you think of other sports and other teams that might be comparable to the Flyers of the 70s?
Well, the teams that pop up right away are not in hockey. I think the Flyers are unique to hockey. If the criteria is winning and having a bunch of guys that are brash and tough, and they're national. People knew about this team all over the country. You know, you saw a picture of Bobby Clark on the Goal magazine with no teeth, and, you know, kids would look at that and go, hey, that's pretty cool. Okay, so I would say, you know, if you look at football, I'd say the 1985 Chicago Bears, because you had characters, the refrigerator, people know those names, right. You know, Jim McMahon. I think the 1986 New York Mets in baseball,
right.
People either loved them or hated them because of their style.
And thought their season was over until that famous bobble at first base. Okay.
And their off-the-field antics. And then if you go around the same time as the Flyers, maybe what was going on out in California and the Bay Area in Oakland. You had the Swingin' A's and you had the Oakland Raiders, two teams that, for different reasons, you know, had some bad boys, quote unquote.
So how do you feel being in that category with those other teams?
Well, it certainly feels great, but I don't think that we really would have been mentioned in the light that we're talked about if we wouldn't have won. You know, that's the criteria, is you have to win, and to do it you know, twice is certainly another feather in the hat. And you know, we had an opportunity of doing it 3 times in a row, and but it just didn't work out that way.
No, but what we have not talked about yet, you won the 2 Stanley Cups, but perhaps one of the most memorable games in the history of the so-called Broad Street Bullies was the one against the Red Army, the Russians. Boy, that really caused, you want to talk about controversy, and a controversy that continues even today among sports historians. What was that like? Well,
what was very interesting is the Red Army had just destroyed all the teams prior to playing us, and so now all of a sudden in the last game that they were going to play in North America, boy, everybody was pulling for us. You know, during the season, not a lot of people were pulling for us, but now they wanted us to win. And Fred Shero had a great game plan on how to beat the Russians. One thing that they didn't have, which they have to do as players, they didn't have big upper body strength. Mm-hmm. You could knock them off the puck, you could take the puck away from them, but we knew what we had to do, and we exercised that. One thing that I've never ever seen before in hockey is a team leaving the ice because somebody got hit. So that was that made it all the more interesting.
That's it. I'm taking my puck and I'm going home.
Sure. And have the president of the league have to go back there and coax them out to then take their whipping on the scoreboard.
Hey, no play, no pay. So they came back, and we totally dominated the team, and they didn't want any part of the rough stuff. But we played exactly the way we did during our regular season. So why should we change our style of play against you know, in an exhibition game?
I can't imagine what the tension was like on the ice when they came back after leaving, saying, "No mas, we want no more of this."
Yeah, we knew we were going to win. Because right at that
I would think so.
Right at that stage, though, we knew they were intimidated. They didn't want any part of the rough stuff, and so we just kept it up. And I'll tell you what, when Joe Watsonson scored a goal, you know, things are going right for us.
Well, you know, you have to say, my goodness, the Russians, when it came to sports domination and intimidation, they had a magnificent reputation, particularly in the 70s, of pretty much every sport in which they participated. So this had to make the Broad Street Bullies known worldwide.
Sure, and even before the game, because, you know, we talked about the Flyers being a national team, but this was a team that, you know, the Russians, in anticipation of playing, there were cartoons over there portraying the Flyers with, you know, caveman clubs instead of hockey sticks. I mean, the Broad Street Bully thing went over into the Soviet Union, and you're talking smack dab in the middle of the Cold War and a few years before the Olympic miracle. I mean, you know, it transcends sports, really.
Right, and then the Olympic miracle happened about 5 years, 4 or 5 years later. We mentioned the Broad Street Bullies throughout this entire episode of It's Your Call, and yet not one of us can determine where that moniker came from. Does anybody out there who's watching know? Because we would really like to know how they got that nickname. If you have insight on that, you can email me here at lynn@lynndoyle.net. You've been a sports reporter for years. It's a mystery.
I mean, we know they play on that street and they beat people up, but as far as the guy who gets the credit, it was me.
Kevin Shola, there you go. You'll be getting calls from all over the world
from
now.
the guy especially.
And HBO, right. So as we wrap up here, and we do want to congratulate the team for being featured in this HBO documentary. What's your recollection? What's your greatest memory? Are you able to pinpoint just one?
Yeah, the greatest memory is that you can take a group of athletes and mold them into a team that the main goal is to win and give your very best every time you're out on the ice, and you play for one another. If one of your teammates is in trouble, you're right there beside them. And I go to war with every one of those guys, and that's how close we were, and we still are to this day.
Well, you can see that when you watch the HBO documentary, and it's now going to be there forever and ever for future generations to enjoy. Dorney, great to have you with us. Thank you so much. Congratulations again on all of your successes. Kevin Shola, wonderful to have your perspective as a sports reporter here with us. And as always, we love to have you here on It's Your Call. We'll see you the next time. Good night.